Life is Strange is lightning in a bottle. It's dreamy, nostalgic, and mysterious all at once. The sapphic representation feels more natural than any other queer couple I've ever seen in media. Even the game's faults are charming. The rushed ending almost feels intentional, getting you just as overwhelmed as Max Caulfield is. And the dialogue is too quirky, corny even, but it's in such an endearingly earnest way. In simpler terms, I really love this video game. It's got once-in-a-lifetime magic. The sequels do not. Why is that? Like I said already, the original game really is something. There's so many good things about it, even on top of what I said in the intro. The atmosphere and tone are absolutely beautiful. It's been 10 years since I watched someone play it for the first time, and around 5 since I played it myself, but it's still stuck with me. Even after all these years, Oregon is still at the top of my must-visit travel bucket list. The golden hues, the animation style that almost looks like a painting, the music, the scenery. I love this game so much. All of the beauty really does amp up the emotional appeal too. Yes, like I said, the dialogue might be a little corny. However, this game very delicately handles so many heavy themes and topics that it just comes off as earnesty more than trying too hard. Especially with how they handled Mark Jefferson. For all of the inconsistent pacing, the plot really is genuinely interesting. I haven't been able to find anything like it since, and there's never been a single plot twist that had me more gagged than Jefferson. Hopefully, if you're watching this video, you already know what happens in the game, but oh well. The good writing doesn't just stop at the plot, though. The characters are so memorable. I'm still very utterly taken with Max Caulfield, especially her relationship with Chloe. The romantic route is that best sapphic representation ever that I was talking about, and it's natural, it's heartfelt, and it's not at all preachy or performative like many more current sapphic rep is, at least to me. There's no over-the-top coming-out scenes or anything like that, but it's just two girls who love each other, and that is, sadly, refreshing. And finally, the soundtrack of the game was the best out of the whole series, too. All of the folksy underground artists were the absolute cherry on top to this game. I still listen to all the Sid Matters songs that were in the soundtrack, and a lot of their music, actually. However, pride cometh before the fall, I guess. Or in this case, before the storm. I think this might actually be a pretty hot take since I've seen very little but love for this game online, but I actually really dislike the Before the Storm prequel. And I really hope that my friend doesn't find this video because she'd kill me for saying that. But seriously, one of the first videos I ever made on this channel was talking about the plot holes with Rachel Amber that this game caused. Feel free to watch that if you can handle less than stellar audio. But ever since I made that, I've really only been able to think about how mediocre this game is as a whole. To give a quick explanation of the plot, in the first game you play as Max Caulfield, but in this prequel you actually see a little bit of Chloe Price's life before Max moves back into Arcadia Bay, namely how Chloe meets Rachel. They meet, they become very quickly infatuated with each other, and end up discovering these huge secrets behind the Amber family. The plot's alright. It doesn't feel much like a Life is Strange story, but it's a sequel, so I guess that could explain it. Well, it would if it weren't for just how much this game butchers all of the other side characters. There are a lot of morally gray side characters in the first Life is Strange game. You have Chloe's abusive stepdad who apparently means well. You have a rageaholic prone to roofing people because he was manipulated into doing it by a father figure. You have a drug dealer with an underage ex-girlfriend that he kind of seemed to really adore. I genuinely can't be talked into liking Frank Bowers. And also, I really hope I don't get flagged for talking about this stuff. Anyways, Before the Storm takes all of these characters into really weird directions, especially since any development is erased before the events of the first game happens. Why do we need a tragic backstory for Nathan Prescott? Or those scenes that make Frank look like he was protecting the underage girls he sold drugs to and helped roofie? Or all of those subplots with that random football player who bullied Nathan. That random football player isn't even in the first game, or he hardly is. This prequel also has a lot of shoehorned characters that frankly didn't feel necessary. There was Frank's evil villain friend, the other high schoolers, Nathan's kind of weird, mostly pathetic girlfriend, and Chloe's weird incel stalker friend? Next, this is a little bit of a nitpick, but one of my favorite parts of the first game were all of the little details. Life is Strange was a labor of love, very obviously so, with so many small things that made the game feel full and complex. There's Max's journal, her photo ops, the smaller butterfly effect events like watering her plant, the Easter eggs and references to other media, etc., etc. There was sort of an attempt to keep this going in Before the Storm, with Chloe having her own journal and some opportunities to graffiti different places, but that's about it. I still appreciate the creators for trying, though. I get that it's hard. Making a prequel with a concept like Life is Strange is already an enormously difficult task. One of the key functions in the game are the weighted decisions that build up to this grand finale and affect all your other opportunities throughout the rest of the story. You can't really have that effect if you already know how both Chloe and Rachel's stories end before you even see the title screen. So there was already a lot of weight on top of Before the Storm's metaphorical shoulders, and it crumbled. And if you saw the title of this video, you're probably expecting every other game in this series to follow in its footsteps. However, among all of these, I think there's actually one pretty good sequel. In my opinion, this is the sole exception to everything I'm in the middle of criticizing the rest of this series for. And as a side note, I genuinely don't know why fans don't show more love and support for this game. I might even appreciate it more than the original, dare I say. I think it's kind of better. Here's a quick recap of the plot, if you haven't played it. You play as a teenager named Sean, taking care of his younger brother Daniel after a misunderstanding that turns deadly with police officers, his neighbor, and the boy's father. Before you know it, you're on the run from the police after doing literally nothing wrong, and your brother has telekinesis powers he's only like halfway in control of. Stressful. You travel around for a bit, staying with grandparents and nomads and in motels, but you try to get you and your brother to a town in Mexico, where it would be safe for you. The endings take a very Red Dead Redemption 2-esque route, with 4 different results based on the morality of your actions in the game. I won't spoil them, but they're just as intense and emotional as the storm felt in the first game, at least to me. That's the great thing about Life is Strange 2. It takes all of the good things about the first game and reinvents them to be even better. And then it also takes the bad parts and improves on those too. I don't know if it's confirmed or not, but I do know that there was some criticism of the first game for how it treated people of color, specifically indigenous people, all throughout the game. They're kind of turned into like this stereotype or a gimmick with the totems and everything else. It could be possible that the developer company, Don't Nod Entertainment, listened to that critique and really sought to improve. This second game does not shy away from criticizing racism. The brothers are Mexican, and from the police brutality to the cruelty random strangers dish out on these 2 kids for no reason, the message of the game is pretty obvious. Also, it came out in 2018 during a certain volatile presidential term that spurred a lot of racist hate towards the Latino community, specifically in the US. But this game takes a really awful situation based in an even worse reality and turns it into a pretty profound piece of art. Not just that, but it's very beautiful as well. It keeps that gorgeous atmosphere, especially in all of the nature scenes of the boys hiking together, and proves that Life is Strange doesn't have to be confined to white girls in small town Oregon. I personally love that small town in Oregon, but that's not the point here. To take it a step further, the writing is nothing below excellent as well. It's everything the first game's writing was, and maybe a little more brave with it too. Obviously, the time travel mechanic and butterfly effect theme go hand in hand, but Don't Nod found a way to keep that whole consequences of your actions thing going with their morality system in Life is Strange 2. I genuinely can't get enough of morality systems in video games. Within this game, not only does it affect the ending, but it also affects how the little brother Daniel acts throughout the story. If you, as Sean, the older brother, steal every opportunity you can, then Daniel starts to steal too. If you curse a lot, he does too. It snowballs into bigger and more serious things until the endings, but go play the game to figure it out for yourself. I highly recommend. One of my other favorite things about this game is how it doesn't completely abandon the first game either. You actually get to meet a character from Arcadia Bay, David Madsen, Chloe's stepdad. I really like the expansion to his character with this, and a cutscene with him changes based on what ending you picked in the first game. If you pick to save Chloe, she actually ends up calling him, and you can see a photo of her and Max together in his trailer. That always makes me smile. Another little detail I like are, well, the little details. They came back. In this game, it's not just photo ops or even a journal, but it's a journal/sketchbook that Sean keeps filling out throughout the game. There are multiple moments where you can stop and draw the scenery around you, which is so cool. Also, you can go around collecting memorabilia from everywhere you visit. brochures, notes from friends, keychains. It's all so cool. And there's a money system too, so you have to spend your spare cash wisely or steal. This lends into all of the themes in the first game. They're actually quite similar between the two games, with a lot of focus on morality and consequences and all of that. The first game is famous for the bond between Max and Chloe, and the writers kept that going with another central theme in Life is Strange 2 being the loving bond between two brothers. And then there's a whole bunch of new themes that make this game so interesting too. There's coming of age, responsibility versus freedom, and then all of the very typical magical stuff that happens in this series. So if Life is Strange 2 is so great, how on earth did they get it so wrong with the next ones? Old habits die hard, I guess. True Colors is the perfect example to this. It just felt different. In the game, you play as a woman named Alex Chen who leaves a foster care home to reunite with her older brother Gabe and go to his small hometown called Haven Springs. You meet his friends and all the other townspeople, including Steph from Before the Storm. Then, after some initial yet trivial drama, Gabe ends up dying in an accident from a planned demolition that was supposed to be delayed. The rest of the game follows Alex trying to investigate who really was at fault for her brother's passing, and also she has this hyper-empathy power where she can sense others' emotions and even manipulate them to her benefit. This was to follow the game's decided theme of empathy, but I personally think that this chosen power serves as a kind of symbol for my personal issues with the rest of the game. It's got a really interesting concept, but it lacks a real direction. In the first game, the time reversal and the time travel that you do adds up. It's often assumed to be the cause of that big storm at the end of the game. In Life is Strange 2, there's no big consequence waiting for you at the end, but Daniel's powers get you into trouble all the time because he's just a kid. He doesn't know how to use them responsibly, and he doesn't have control over them even if he did. When he freaks out, his telekinesis magnifies that panic and people end up dead. And then with Alex, it just happens. She has to deal with the downsides of the emotions too, but nothing particularly deadly. The origin of her powers aren't ever really explained either. They're just there right from the start. It's just this passive skill she has rather than a complete plot device or problem to overcome like Chekhov's gun. The gun just never goes off. A lot of the game felt like that for me. The characters are there, the story exists, but nothing big ever really happens. In Life is Strange 2, the big stuff happens right at the start, looms over you the entire story, and then slams back into you at the end. In the first game, both Mark Jefferson and the Storm add tension and intensity, and then there's everything with Kate Marsh, Rachel Amber, and all of them. The ending for True Colors, spoiler warning, is just the villain confessing his role to play in the death of Alex's brother and parents. He then fails to kill her, and then she just climbs out of the mine shaft that she's stuck in and goes back to town. It's really anticlimactic. I'm not a big fan of this game at all. It feels a lot more sanitized compared to Life is Strange 1 and 2, and even Before the Storm, like a generic cozy game that's inspired by Life is Strange, but not an actual part of the series. I will say this though, Erica Mori, Alex Chen's actress, does an amazing performance playing with her with what she had to work with. After this game comes the most recent release, and probably the most polarizing game of the series. Biggest selling point of Double Exposure from its announcement was the fact that the original protagonist, Max Caulfield, is back. As the protagonist, too. It's awesome. In this game, Max gets a new sort of power, the ability to travel between two parallel timelines. The only difference between them is whether or not her best friend Safi is alive or murdered. So she has to go back and forth and try to figure out who killed her in one and who's trying to kill her in the other. Genuinely, past this, I have no idea how to succinctly recap the plot of this game to you. It is so confusing. She meets a bunch of new people during this investigation of hers, and multiple of them seem to have been caught doing things they claim they didn't. She finds out some controversy behind a canceled book deal between Safi and a publisher, and then has this vision of an Arcadia Bay-esque storm happening again. Turns out, Safi's a shapeshifter. She causes the storm Max had a vision of, and Max is almost forced to shoot Safi to end it after Safi begs her to, but instead they end up, combining the two timelines and doing a bunch of magic stuff to fix it without her dying. And then, Safi goes off trying to create some Life is Strange Avengers team, and Max tells everyone else she knows about her powers. The cherry on top, Chloe isn't here. Not even if you choose her over Arcadia Bay. If you did, Chloe apparently ends up dumping Max and hitting on Victoria Chase online instead. You learn this in the first episode, and when the community found out, most of them were not at all happy. Everyone had such high expectations for a game with Max as the protagonist, and all of these expectations were mostly let down. There was hardly a sign of the first game at all, except for some mentions about Chloe and everything that happened a couple times. So this is an extremely rough start for any game. Essentially, what they did was they took everything that made the first game good and lovable, like an interesting pairing, good character chemistry, raw and emotional writing about heavy topics, and beautiful, nostalgic aesthetics, and then changed all of them completely while expecting the same result. The only thing that stayed the same was the storm ending. It feels so similar to the original game's ending, but if everything was just marginally less interesting and more confusing. Maybe I'm being harsh, which I really, really don't mean to be, but the weight of Arcadia Bay's ending was after you absolutely fall in love with both Chloe Price and the town, and then you're forced to choose between them. Here, it's just something that happens because of Safi. And there's a happy ending anyway, so you never have to feel the emotional weight of losing anything. It might not be completely anticlimactic like True Colors was with its ending, but instead they ran to the opposite end of the spectrum. All of the games in the series, in fact, feel so completely different from each other, but all of these sequels are still united in how they just can't compare to the first. So what are the common denominators, if there are even any? Up until this point, my criticisms have admittedly been kind of scattered. Picking predictable characters, having a boring plot, having a plot that wasn't boring enough, complicated powers, weird atmosphere, and so on and so forth. So let's compile all of the main problems across the series. Firstly, all of the sequels felt really watered down and maybe a little too clean compared to 1 and 2. They lacked that earnesty, that willingness to nosedive into really complicated topics. The contrast between the tranquil, gorgeous atmosphere and the dark, chilling themes like being roofied, being murdered, being taken advantage of, being manipulated. It's a trademark of this game at this point, or it should have been. True Colors, Double Exposure, Before the Storm, they all kind of lack this in one or the other. Or both. Secondly, the stories feel stretched out, if that's the best way to describe it. If I were to be 100% frank with you, I don't think Before the Storm needed to exist, and Double Exposure definitely didn't either. They made no sense with the characters and how they'd been established thus far. In the most brutal sense, these sequels don't have any soul. The emotion feels forced, the stories are too mundane, the chemistry was impossible for me to find. In 1 and 2, there's all of these very exciting and scary moments that come from things you would never expect, as well as topics like racism, police brutality, trauma, grooming, everything Mark Jefferson does. The best part about these was how delicately the topics were handled. Alternatively, in Double Exposure and True Colors, it's just company corruption and a publishing deal gone wrong, I guess? If I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments, but I didn't find anything much deeper than that. To top it all off, my final little gripe is the disconnect between powers. There's time travel and telekinesis, and then there's hyper-empathy, emotional manipulation, time manipulation, and whatever the hell Max was doing with the photos at the end of Double Exposure, and the shape-shifting thing Safi has. The powers might be the reason you play Life is Strange 1, but the core of the game is in its emotion and its heart. Throwing in all of this sci-fi nonsense turns these games into almost a gimmick. All of these problems are way easy to chalk up to, oh, they lost their way. My main theory, I already touched on in the Rachel Amber video, divides between the development teams. For those of you who don't know, Life is Strange was a series created by 2 different teams. Don't Nod Entertainment, like I mentioned already, and Deck 9 Games. Don't Nod did the first and second games, and then Deck 9 did Before the Storm, True Colors, and then Double Exposure, after Life is Strange got sold to them. Already, you can tell who my favorite is. Maybe this is a personal thing. However, there's very clearly a difference between the approach the 2 companies took with this franchise. It's possible that Deck 9's approach just didn't connect with me. However, I don't think this is all in my head or my personal tastes either. There's a real lack of experimentation with the sequels in a really confusing way. All 3 games felt way too reminiscent of the original, yet jarringly different at the same time. True Colors ending seems to be inspired by the Mark Jefferson twist in the first game, with having a good guy be evil all along, and Double Exposures was by the Arcadia Bay Storm. The constant reinvention of something already good feels exhausting. Taking a deeper look into this, there's one very big difference from the first game that I haven't mentioned yet. The first game had a literal mountain of Easter eggs and references to other media that clearly inspired it. There's Twin Peaks, Catcher in the Rye, Donnie Darko, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Blue is the Warmest Color. I could go on forever, and maybe I actually will in another video. Let me know if that sounds interesting. But these sequels don't really have anything like that. Instead, they're inspired by earlier games. That makes logical sense on paper, since you want to create the same successes your one project had in your future ones. YouTubers do it all the time. I do it all the time. However, with art, especially this series, that just doesn't work. I call it the Ouroboros problem. When you stop taking in all of the outside inspiration, all of the other stories that the creators clearly love and want to emulate within their own art, and then just use your own success as inspiration, you're cannibalizing yourself. You're eating your own work and then ending up with both the new and the old works tarnished in some way because of it. That's the official problem, if you'd asked me for my very clearly uninvited advice. But as I was researching this video, there was more of a speculative, take with a huge grain of salt type of context that I thought could also lead into this. As in, I saw some articles, they could be dramatized or solved by now, but if it's true, it could explain that washed away, dull feel these sequels have. Apparently, both Deck 9 and Square Enix, the series publisher, have had big problems with toxic work environments, unhealthy work hours, and discrimination and hate speech. I highly recommend reading the article in the description about it, because it's a very long story that I cannot entirely summarize perfectly in this video, but there seems to be a genuine problem behind both companies. It makes me wonder what all of the creatives would be able to do without all of the pressure and outside influence. That actually makes me quite sad to think about. Maybe this can be fixed. Well, realistically, probably not. However, my more nuanced perspective would be that there's evidence for good sequels in this series are possible. Life is Strange 2 proves that. The genuinely good intentions the staff mentions in the article below in the description, please read it, also seem to prove that. But you have to recognize what's too valuable to cut away in a series like this. What themes, what settings, what atmosphere, what character dynamics, plot devices or styles, and what you should experiment on. It's a really hard task to take on, which is why outside inspiration is so important. The future of the Life is Strange series feels like it's on shaky ground for sure, but I'm actually hopeful. Even if there's not another sequel in the future for the series, these writers and developers and everyone else creatively involved have potential to make something amazing. As for now, all we have to do is wait and see. Thanks for making it all the way to the end of this video. I'm trying something new with these longer videos, and I'm hoping it goes well. I had a lot of fun going into a topic I cared so much about, and trimming it down felt borderline impossible. If you liked this video, I highly recommend subscribing so you can be the first to know about my next videos coming out. If you want to see another Life is Strange analysis, I have my Rachel Amber video that you can check out too. Let me know in the comments if there's anything else you'd like to see with me. I'm very open to ideas. Should I make a video about Mark Jefferson, Kate Marsh, another Rachel Amber video? I'm thinking about doing a Chloe Price one, but let me know. As for now, that's all from me. Thank you so much for watching.